Shalom YouTube! Hey guys, it's Fletch. Welcome back to OTH. Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the Mantis X training system, and I'm going to try to cover some things that some of the other previous reviewers have not yet had the opportunity to cover, and hopefully maybe show you some features and some benefits of this training system, at least as far as I've seen anyways. No one else has gotten out there and covered. Now one thing, this is the dry fire training screen. And one thing you might want to do before you do that is go to settings here, and you look here and it asks you your right or left-handed shooter, and it's set to right-handed shooter. And you see the bullet there, or the shell casing without the bullet on the top of it. We're on dry fire practice, and you have the option between forward and rear mount, and we're set up with ours faced forward, and we have the setting to clear the history. And we have a disconnect option and report issues. So basically what you do is you just set this somewhere that's within range of your weapon, and you take your weapon, and we're going to try to hold this here, and this is a safe direction right now, guys. There's no issue there. Plus we have a clear weapon, so always good to be safe. And so what you're going to do is you're going to press start. And it's going to start recording, and I'm just doing this one hand to give you an idea of what's going on. And so it's 52.1 rather, and the lower the score, the more movement there is, and so that's the basic gist of it, and we'll give you some more details later. And so obviously you're going to rack the slide, and 56, 27, lots of movement on that one, 42, 37, and obviously I'm not really trying to do my best here. I'm just giving you an idea. Plus, I'm also showing you that apparently, since I think Hank Strange and Artisan Tony and some other people that reviewed this product, they have worked out some of the issues in it. Because this is logging pretty much every hit that I'm making, or every time I'm pulling the trigger now. So far, I mean, this is pretty dead on as far as tracking my dry fire practice. We're at 17, 18, 19, and 20. And as far as I could tell, I think that it registered everyone. I think I may have racked the slide twice because I was busy talking instead of paying attention. But I think it registered everyone. And so then it shows you, here is, each graduation of that out shows how many times that happened. And each one of these represents something different. That's not necessarily where you were aiming, or it's off to one side or the other. It's more so just to give you an idea of what's going on there. So if you press this, it'll tell you that it was pushing. I was just shooting it one-handed through my tripod for the sake of this video. And you go click the back button, and so there you are. 1 second here, and I'll do it for real, and do a better job of trying to hold it steady, and then we'll take a look at the results and what it has to tell us. Okay, YouTube, so here is the Mantis X, and I just finished a 20-round dry firing exercise, and you can see my hand situated here. Right here it says 20 shots, and there's like 6 or 7 shots here that were perfect. That's these here, and then the rest are all of these graduated marks going up. And the ones that have more graduated marks going up is the imperfections, so to speak, that the Mantis X is suggesting that may have taken place. And if we look here, it says, breaking the wrist up is, so if we click right there and try to get that to focus for you, but it tells you kind of basically what to expect and what's going on there. And so if we click back, it brings us back. Now, another thing that we can do, if you click to the right here, and it shows you this is what's happening before you pull the trigger. So if we click the info button up here, and it tells us this view shows a chart of your scores for each shot during the session, and a chart for the hold movement and the trigger press movement before each shot. Hold movement is calculated by looking at the movement before the trigger press, while trigger press movement analyzes the movement during the quarter second before the shot breaks. So you click got it here and it shows you. So obviously the bigger these bar graphs are, it indicates more movement. For me, this isn't it doesn't relate to me as well as the next one here. So let's take a look at the next one. So this is what the next one shows. Now you can see here that I'll get this close so we can get a better look at it. In this area, it shows you the red is over here, then the yellow and the green. So same thing, we click the info button, and it tells us here you can see the movement on the gun for each shot color coded as follows. Green is your hold, so that's before the trigger press. Yellow is your trigger press. And red shows movement after the trigger breaks, which may be very large, especially if you're doing live fire. And it says you made it to the end of your tutorial. We don't need to do that. So if we just click got it, and this will give us an idea of what we're looking at. And sorry, I'm trying to not have the reflection of the camera in there, but trying to get it so you can see it too. But anyways, so obviously this one wasn't a very good one. You can see the score on that shot was 81.7, and I click here on 20, and that was a 97%, so that was nearly a perfect shot. So if we look here, you know, green is our hold, yellow is our trigger squeeze, and red is after the trigger pull. And so that was a pretty good shot. Let's look at the first one. 83, second shot, saying 89, third, 91, and you know, so you can go through here and you can look at all of your different shots and how much movement there was. So I can tell you, if you're an old school guy and you got a lot of time behind the trigger, you may look at this and go, ah, that's just a bunch of bunk. That's a waste of money. I can figure all that out on my own. Well, you know, you might. However, I will tell you that many times, even experienced and veteran shooters go through the yips, where you're doing something wrong and you just can't quite seem to figure out what it is that you're doing wrong or why. And having a tool like this can help you do that, so you can see the movement that's happening in the gun before, during, and after your trigger pull. Also, I think that if you incorporated this with a video that you took of yourself while you were doing it, and you could actually watch it as well, that would provide a lot of insight. For me, this right here provides a lot of insight. You can see this right here, this is all tight. This is all right in there. But like, I think shot 6 here, yeah. Shot 6, look at that. 81.7 is the score on that shot, because it's all over. I didn't have very good trigger pull that time. But like shot 19, it's all right there, you know, and 98, 97 on shot 20. And so the closer that it is within there, it shows that the less movement that I had in the firearm as a whole as I was manipulating the trigger. And so that's what this system is about, guys. It's about helping you to manipulate the trigger in a way that's going to help you to be a better shooter. And I also think that if you were to use this with some type of a holster that was designed for a tactical light, you could also practice drawing and getting shots on target, or, you know, dry fire, timing yourself to get a quality shot off and not, you know, have to do live fire shooting as well, because, you know, you can't always do that. It gets expensive after a while firing live ammunition. But this is a way that you can get constructive feedback and being able to draw out of your own holster and using your own weapon. Now, there are other programs that are out there, you know, dry fire, you know, laser-based systems and things like that. But if it's not the same form factor as what you're used to shooting, it doesn't give you feedback actually shooting your weapon. And this particular system does. It gives you feedback shooting your weapon. Okay, YouTube, so as I was thinking or suggesting, this is a Blade Tech Eclipse holster. This is designed for a TLR1, and while it doesn't fit in there perfectly, the Mantis X on my Glock 19 here will fit in the holster. It goes in all the way. It's not, you know, it doesn't have perfect retention like it would normally. You know, it'll just drop right out, and there's no way to put enough pressure on it because it's not wide enough down here where it would normally grip on the light. However, I'm sure it would work well enough that, you know, if you wanted to do dry fire draw practice, you would be able to do that. And you know, since this is the same form factor as, say, your Blade Tech Eclipse, then you would be able to do it because it holds it at the same cant, you know, the same height off your waistband. Everything on this, I believe, is the same, or at least it felt like it was when I tried it, when I first got this Eclipse that's designed to go with the TLR1. So anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys, and I do plan on doing some dry fire practice in this fashion as well with that, because I think that that is a valuable tool as well. Like I said earlier, it's a way, especially for inexperienced shooters, that you can practice drawing your weapon out and getting a shot off quickly without, you know, being at risk to yourself or anyone else. And even if you're an experienced shooter, it could be a way to, you know, as the old saying goes, smooth is fast, fast is smooth. You know, it's all about going smooth and getting the trigger pull down and getting, you know, lead down range, meat on metal, as the old saying goes too, and getting quality shots down range in a field expedient manner. So anyways, guys, I want to share it with you, and this is the TLR1 Blade Tech Eclipse. Alright, YouTube, so what are my overall thoughts and impressions of the Mantis X? I would call it a trigger training system, and thus far I would say it's favorable. Like I said earlier, if you are, you know, someone that has a lot of trigger time, some of this stuff, yes, you know, however, comma, you may be able to figure out yourself, but like I talked about earlier, a lot of times when you've got the yips and you're not connecting properly, it's because you've forgotten one of the basics. And using a system like this can and will help you be able to diagnose when you've gotten away from one of the basics, and this is a way to help you go back through it. And as we talked about before, you know, you could even do dry fire practice as well as live fire practice, drawing from your holster concealed, and it'll give you feedback like we talked about before, during, and after the trigger pull. And at some point I hope to do a follow-up video doing live fire training out on my range here on the homestead. But so overall, I would say yes, thumbs up. I think this is a worthwhile system to make an investment in. Some constructive criticism I would give to Mantis X is that good job fixing the false reporting, or missed reporting is probably a better way to put it. The dry fire training, as I was just showing you, was near perfect, and so that's gotten a lot better. Next, what I would like to see is, that I could give constructive criticism on. It would be good if there was a way that I could track myself with multiple firearms and or multiple shooters. The most that you could do with that would be, set up profiles for different shooters and then different guns for each shooter. So as an example, I could set up a profile for myself, and then I could have this on my Glock, and I could have one on my HK, my SIG, whatever, and because each one has a little bit different trigger pull and I need to work on it differently, and that way I could also track my progress, showing the difference that using the Mantis X system has made to help me become a better shooter via having a better, steady and consistent trigger pull. And also for multiple shooters, so same thing. So for like me, my wife, whatever weapon that you're using, that way you can track your progress and a way to keep your history. And if for nothing more on the history than just what your overall scores are, in a way to keep track of that, of like your average or something like that, because it may be a bit much to track completely all of those charts and all that other stuff, but maybe at least your trigger score, or excuse me, your overall score in a session, and say a 20 round training session or whatever it is. So all right, so one other feedback that I can give about this is that when you're doing dry fire practice, you don't want to rack the slide and fire as quickly as possible. If you rack the slide and give it a half second to a second before you pull the trigger, I just did it like 60 times, and each time it would register like 19 out of 20, 20 out of 20 on each one. I did, however, notice that if I just did it really quick, like just rack the slide and pull the trigger, rack the slide, pull the trigger, it would tend to not catch those. I think it has to do with the racking the slide motion, has something to do with that. And so if you rack the slide and give it a second or a second and a half or something like that before you pull the trigger again, it does a much better job of picking up each and every practice fire shot. That's my feedback, and if you have any questions about the Mantis X, feel free to post your questions below. I will do my best to answer them for you. However, I'm not an aficionado, and this is more of a first look at the Mantis X training system, and we will do some more follow-up with this, actually, hopefully do some recording showing drawing from a holster and different things like that, and live fire training as well. Thanks for watching today, guys. I greatly appreciate it. Shalom.